Zahra's breath hitched, a thin, fragile thread in the opulent expanse of the majlis. The air, heavy with the scent of oud and jasmine, seemed to press down on her, magnifying the hollow ache in her chest. Her fingers, calloused from endless chores, traced the intricate patterns on the velvet cushion beside her, each loop and swirl a stark reminder of the world's indifferent beauty. She felt small, almost invisible, a single dust mote dancing in the sunbeams that pierced the towering arched windows. Beyond the gilded lattice, the golden skyline of sunset bled into hues of rose and violet, a spectacle of fleeting grandeur that only deepened her sense of isolated contemplation. She was an observer in this palace of whispers and unspoken rules, a silent witness to a life she merely served, never truly lived. Her own reflection in the polished marble floor seemed distant, a phantom in the rich tapestry of her surroundings. A dull throb pulsed behind her eyes, the residue of unshed tears, a testament to the burdens she carried unseen, the weight of expectations, the quiet despair of her circumstances, all converged in this moment of profound solitude. She longed for a space where the air felt lighter, where the gilded walls did not feel like a cage. Yet here she sat, amidst the grandeur, a poignant study in contrast, her spirit yearning for connection amidst an ocean of estranged faces. The silence, thick and suffocating, wrapped around her like a heavy shroud. Her gaze drifted to a desert rose encased in glass, a fragile testament to resilience, and a pang of understanding resonated deep within her. The world outside the dome was harsh, beautiful, and unforgiving, just as her life felt within these palace walls. The rose endured, as must she. A soft rustle broke the stillness, a gentle intrusion. A familiar, comforting presence stood before her, a warm hand reaching out. Her aunt's voice, a tender melody, pierced the quiet. "Why are you sitting all by yourself, my sweet one, in this vast, quiet space?" The pool's filtered calm belied the intense physical reality unfolding within. Layla's elegant haute couture abaya, typically a symbol of effortless grace, now clung to her, an unexpected shroud of exertion, every fiber of her being strained, a silent testament to a commitment far exceeding mere obligation. Her voice, however, remained a soothing balm, a steady current against the rising tide of Sheikh Khalid's internal trembles. The pristine white bedspread, a backdrop of serene luxury, offered a precarious anchor as she leaned into it, her body a taut brace, a living wall against the inevitable. A deep ache resonated through her arms, a burning fire that spread through her shoulders, demanding recognition, but finding only unwavering resolve. Her focus was absolute, anchored to the frail weight of the sheikh, whose fragile frame depended entirely on her steadfastness. Each inhale was a quiet prayer for strength, each exhale a measured release of the immense pressure she bore. The shimmering surface of the infinity pool outside offered no reflection of this intimate, desperate struggle. It was a world away from the silent battle waged on the opulent bed. Her hair, meticulously arranged moments before, now threatened to escape its confines, damp tendrils clinging to her temples, a stark contrast to the composure she projected. The air, usually fragrant with exotic blooms, seemed heavy with unspoken effort, each moment stretching into an eternity of physical demand. Her eyes, though fixed on the task, held a distant spark of an inner fight, a deep reservoir of resilience drawn from experiences far removed from this gilded cage. She knew the precariousness of their position, the fragile balance maintained by sheer willpower and an empathetic understanding that transcended their stations. The world outside, with its endless expectations and societal judgment, momentarily ceased to exist, leaving only the raw, visceral reality of this singular act of support. She braced herself further, pushing against the soft give of the bedspread, grounding herself, becoming a pillar for a man who had once been an unshakable force. The opulent surroundings, the polished marble, the gleam of gold, all faded into irrelevance beside the profound human effort unfolding in their midst. This was a moment forged in quiet desperation and profound, selfless care, a testament to dignity defended in the shadows of splendor. Her breath came in short, measured gasps, each one a tiny victory against the encroaching fatigue. The fabric of her abaya stretched taut across her back, a second skin of effort, revealing the powerful musculature beneath. Her feet, planted firmly on the cool, ornate rug, refused to yield, refusing to allow any further decline for the man she held. The exquisite craftsmanship of the room, every intricate detail, silently witnessed this profound act of human connection, a bond forged not by title or wealth, but by a shared vulnerability and an unyielding commitment. The very stillness of the air became a kind of participant, holding its breath with them, acknowledging the gravity of the silent promise she upheld. Her every muscle throbbed, a symphony of strain, yet her grip never wavered, her encouragement never ceased. She was a silent, unyielding force, a testament to the unacknowledged heroes who uphold the dignity of others. Khalid's gaze, though still somewhat clouded by his recent ordeal, drifted past the rose, past Layla, and fixated on a point beyond the grand windows, a distant glimmer on the horizon. A subtle shift in his expression, a flicker of something akin to alarm, caused Rashid to follow his father's line of sight. The serene landscape, moments before a picture of tranquil beauty, now held an ominous speck, growing rapidly, disrupting the harmonious transition of day into twilight. Layla, sensitive to the sudden alteration in the atmosphere, instinctively moved closer, her eyes narrowing as she, too, perceived the approaching disturbance. The faint drone, barely audible at first, quickly intensified, a mechanical intrusion into their fragile peace, shattering the quiet lull of the water and the gentle breeze. The air, once soft and comforting, now vibrated with a low thrum that spoke of power and purpose, a stark contrast to the intimate serenity they had so carefully cultivated. Rashid's hand, still on his father's shoulder, tightened almost imperceptibly, a protective instinct stirring within him as the unknown drew nearer. The golden light of the fading sun seemed to dim, casting longer, more dramatic shadows that danced with an unsettling energy. The silence that had deepened into understanding now held a taut, expectant quality, each breath a silent question. The desert rose, its fragile beauty a symbol of enduring strength, felt suddenly vulnerable. The promise of healing and peace, so recently felt, now seemed to hang precariously in the balance, threatened by this unforeseen arrival. A chill, unrelated to the cooling evening air, prickled Layla's skin, a premonition of disruption, of a carefully constructed peace about to be irrevocably altered. The subtle scent of oud, which had permeated their sanctuary, now mingled with a faint, metallic tang on the air, an unwelcome herald of impending change. The tranquil pool, a mirror of the sky, now seemed to reflect a growing unease, its surface disturbed by an unseen force. The golden skyline, once a beacon of hope, began to blur with the unsettling approach, suggesting that the calm was an illusion, soon to be broken. They stood, three figures silhouetted against the deepening hues of the sky, united by a silent, shared apprehension, awaiting the inevitable confrontation that this encroaching presence foretold. The delicate balance they had found, the quiet triumph of heart over tradition, faced its true test, poised on the cusp of an unknown challenge. His fingers clamped onto Layla's shoulder, a desperate anchor, rather than a gesture of command. "I never thought I'd end up like this," he rasped, his voice a frail whisper, heavy with the weight of shame, an old man clinging to a girl half his size. Layla braced her heels firmly into the polished marble floor, her back screaming in silent protest under his formidable weight. Yet, her voice remained a soft, steady current against his self-pity, gently reminding him, "You're not just an old man, Sheikh Khalid. You are fiercely battling to reclaim your strength, striving to stand once more. That relentless fight, that determination, is what truly matters, far more than any perceived weakness." Her words, infused with quiet conviction, echoed the profound truth that dignity was not merely an inherited status but a fiercely defended spirit, even in the most shadowed corners of opulence. The air, thick with the scent of his exertion, now carried a subtle, almost imperceptible shift, as Layla's unwavering belief began to penetrate the fortress of his despair, offering a fragile yet potent glimmer of hope. She maintained their precarious balance, a silent, unyielding pillar against the overwhelming force of his physical decline. The soft glow of the Swarovski lantern caught the glint of tears in her own eyes, unshed but deeply felt, for she knew the bitter taste of dignity lost. A silent vow passed between them, an unspoken agreement to continue this arduous, intimate battle. far from the prying eyes and expectations of the world beyond their private sanctuary. This struggle, she knew, was not just for his legs, but for the very essence of who he was. The scent of oud, usually reserved for grand occasions, now mingled with the sharp tang of effort in the intimate air of the private infinity pool area. Layla's posture, though outwardly composed, masked the tremor in her limbs, a testament to the immense strain she endured. She was a pearl on velvet, her quiet resilience a stark contrast to the luxurious backdrop, her worth immeasurable against the superficial glitter. Sheikh Khalid, his noble head still bowed, found a fleeting strength in her words, a subtle flicker of defiance in his weary eyes. The desert rose in its glass dome, on a nearby table, seemed to mirror their precarious situation, its delicate beauty enduring against all odds. The vast golden skyline, visible through the grand windows, deepened into twilight, a silent witness to the profound personal battle unfolding within the palace walls. It was a struggle for more than just physical movement. It was a defiant assertion of self in the face of an eroding independence, a quiet testament to the truth that true strength often resides in the most unexpected and humble places. Yet even with the unspoken pledges of protection from his son, Sheikh Khalid's own internal battle raged. His fingers, trembling slightly, found purchase on Layla's shoulder, a grip not of command, but of a profound, desperate need that transcended his former regal bearing. The weight of his own vulnerability pressed down, heavier than any crown, as he struggled against the encroaching shadows of his physical decline. He leaned heavily on her, his velvet robe rustling softly with the movement, a stark contrast to the raw exertion etched on his face. A whisper, raw with shame, escaped his lips, barely audible above the gentle hum of the infinity pool's filtration system. "I never thought I'd end up like this," he confessed, his gaze fixed on the rippling surface of the water, a mirror reflecting a life he barely recognized. An old man, reduced to clinging to a girl half his size. The words hung in the air, a testament to the pride that still wrestled with his fractured strength, the echoes of a once unshakable authority now muted by his frailty. Layla, despite the escalating protest of her own muscles, pressed her heels into the cool, polished floor, anchoring them both. Her haute couture abaya, designed for elegance, now strained against the sheer physical demand of supporting him, its intricate embroidery a silent witness to her unyielding resolve. Sweat, a testament to the immense effort, beaded on her brow and trickled down her temples, dampening the fine fabric beneath her headscarf. Her back screamed in silent protest under his formidable weight, yet her voice remained a soft, steady current in the tumultuous sea of his self-reproach. "You're not just an old man," she reminded him gently, her tone infused with an empathy that transcended their stations, her eyes meeting his with an unwavering conviction. "You're fighting for your legs back. That matters. It speaks of a dignity not given, but fiercely defended, even in the shadows of splendor." Her words, simple yet profound, seemed to settle over him, a balm to the sting of his humiliation. The desert rose in its glass dome, positioned on a nearby ornate table, seemed to glow with a quiet inner light, a symbol of enduring beauty forged in harsh, demanding conditions, mirroring the resilience she now saw in him. The air, thick with the subtle scent of oud, now carried a faint, almost imperceptible metallic tang from the pool, a reminder of the physical elements surrounding their intimate struggle. The gilded wheelchair, a constant, silent presence, stood just meters away, a goal that felt impossibly distant, yet steadily, inch by agonizing inch, they moved towards it. This was not merely about movement, it was about reclaiming a fractured self. Every tremor in his once powerful frame, every strained breath, every bead of sweat that traced a path down his weathered skin was a testament to the profound battle being waged within. Layla's arms, though trembling, held firm, a bulwark against the tide of despair, a testament to her quiet, unwavering loyalty. The golden skyline, visible through the grand windows, deepened into a profound twilight, its distant, shimmering lights a silent backdrop to this deeply personal and intensely human struggle. For a fleeting moment, the shame in Khalid's eyes seemed to recede, replaced by a flicker of renewed purpose. a fragile ember reignited by her quiet strength and unwavering belief. He was not merely a burden, he was a warrior, and she, his steadfast ally, in a fight for something far more valuable than gold or power. A new fragrance, sharper, more sterile than the usual palace scents, now permeated the air around the private infinity pool. It was here, in the secluded sanctuary of tranquil waters and polished stone, beneath the soaring ornate ceilings, that Sheikh Khalid's world had narrowed. His once boundless dominion, now confined to the gleaming expanse of a gilded wheelchair. A low, bitter sound, raw, devoid of regal composure, scraped from his throat, echoing a cracked spirit. He, who had commanded empires with a whisper, who had strode into mahogany-paneled meeting rooms with the world's economic pulse beating in his hand, now found himself utterly dependent. His voice, once a torrent of decisive pronouncements, was now a fragile current, laden with a humiliation that pierced his core. "Do you comprehend, Layla?" he rasped, words heavy with grief and raw indignation, the profound sting of presiding over fate-altering discussions, where nations hung on every utterance, to being restrained in this contraption, merely to attend to basic human functions? To require a maid's steady hand, simply to achieve an upright posture? His eyes, usually sharp and discerning, now held a haunted, distant glaze, reflecting a past glory impossibly far removed from his vulnerability. A tremor, not of physical weakness, but emotional anguish, ran through his frame, rippling beneath his luxurious velvet robe that draped his diminished form. The gold trim on the wheelchair glinted, a cruel mockery of the power he had once wielded, contrasting sharply with the raw, visceral pain etched on his weathered face. The vastness of the private infinity pool, a testament to his immense wealth, seemed to amplify his sense of entrapment, each ripple a silent witness to his private torment. Layla's throat constricted, a tight knot of profound empathy forming in the delicate space beneath her jaw. The elegant haute couture abaya, typically a garment of serene grace, felt heavy, confining, as she absorbed his raw vulnerability. She understood with a clarity born of struggle, the suffocating weight of lost autonomy. Her life, shaped by struggle, taught her the searing ache of dignity compromised. Her dark, resilient eyes met his, unwavering, reflecting a shared human frailty and the quiet battle to reclaim self-worth. "I comprehend, Sheikh Khalid," she murmured, her voice a soft, steady counterpoint to his lament, the bitter taste of dignity's erosion. Perhaps not in the exact manner you have known it, surrounded by such splendor, yet the essence of that loss, the profound emptiness it leaves, is a landscape I recognize, a sheen of perspiration, a recurring image of shared struggle glistened on Khalid's temple, catching subdued light. He looked at her then, truly looked, the raw agony in his gaze momentarily softening, replaced by a flicker of surprise, then a fragile, dawning recognition. Her arms, though visibly tired from physical exertion, held a quiet, unwavering strength, a silent testament to resilience forged in hardship. The delicate desert rose in its glass dome, a symbol of enduring beauty in harsh conditions, mirrored Layla's quiet fortitude, a precious bloom thriving against all odds. The very air around them, moments before thick with his despair, now held a faint, almost imperceptible shift, a subtle mingling of his profound loss and her unwavering compassion, creating a unique, fragile bridge between two vastly different worlds. This unexpected connection, this shared space of vulnerability, transcended the chasm of their status, weaving a delicate thread of understanding, offering a fleeting, precious solace amidst the shadows of splendor. The faint aroma of oud, usually associated with grand occasions, now hung in the air, a silent witness to this intensely personal, deeply human exchange, reminding them that dignity was not merely a public facade, but a personal battle fought in the quietest, most vulnerable corners of the heart. Far from the majlis's suffocating elegance, where Zara wrestled with tradition and desire, another opulent chamber held a different stillness, heavy with effort and wrenching vulnerability. A single bead of sweat, thick and cold, slid from Sheikh Khalid's temple along his pallid skin, a stark mark of exertion. His eyes, still clouded from the recent ordeal, found Layla's. A silent, profound acknowledgement passed between them, a recognition of her fierce youth and surprising strength. Her slender arms, trembling with strain, held him upright, with an almost miraculous grip. Her resilience was a living force in the air. Her voice, breathy from exertion, had a crystalline clarity, a quiet defiance that cut the heavy quiet as she explained the roots of her capacity. Strong, she said with quiet conviction, did not mean untouched by life's cruelties. Her childhood had been burdened with responsibilities and sorrows far beyond a child's share, a backbreaking weight that paradoxically forged the steadfast anchor she was now. Perhaps that arduous past was precisely why she could hold him now, pain refined into indomitable strength. A profound, guttural sigh escaped Sheikh Khalid. His once regal shoulders slumped, shame washing over his aristocratic features. His voice, stripped of command, softened to a whisper, bitter with a father's sorrow. He detested the thought of his son, Rashid, seeing him debilitated and dependent, a broken shadow of his former self. Not long ago, Rashid's gaze had been worshipful, viewing his father not merely as a parent, but as an impregnable fortress, impervious to weakness. The contrast between that public persona and his private collapse gnawed at him. It was more than physical. It was an internal battle within his kingly heart, a clash between the invincible image he had projected and the fragile, profoundly human man he'd become. The weight of perceived failure pressed on him, heavier than any ailment, anchoring him to this raw reality. The faint antiseptic from his care mingled with a metallic, coppery tang of fear, a dissonant counterpoint to Layla's steady courage. He felt cool marble beneath his trembling hands, a grounding force pulling him from the illusions of former strength. The moment stretched between confession and a fragile mutual understanding, a delicate bridge forming in the charged silence. The future, once a predetermined path to a solitary throne, now unfolded as a complex tapestry threaded with shared humanity and unforeseen reliance, an intimate bond forged in weakness and emergent fortitude. A subtle film of tears veiled Layla's vision as she offered a solution born from profound empathy. Let me help you stand when he is not observing, so you can recall your true self before he enters this chamber. Sheikh Khalid leaned more heavily against her, his legs quivering with exertion. Layla braced herself, tightening her stance as she urged him, "Careful, I have you, but you must breathe with me, in and out." The desert rose, delicate within its glass dome on a nearby table, silently bore witness to their precarious balance and enduring resilience. The Sheikh's labored attempts to match her gentle rhythm only produced a raspy sound, each exhalation like dry leaves scraping across stone, a stark protest from deep within his chest. A flicker of doubt crossed his weary gaze, a concession to the relentless challenge of his own failing body. He voiced a fragile apprehension. "Should I lose my footing, you will remain steady." Her response was immediate, firm, and infused with an unyielding conviction that cut through his uncertainty. "That is not an option, for I am not releasing you." A profound question, tinged with a raw vulnerability, then escaped his lips, his voice catching with unexpected emotion. "Why does this burden matter so deeply to you, Layla?" Her arms, taut with the monumental effort, bore the trembling weight of his dependence, while a fine sheen of perspiration dampened her brow. Each bead on her skin, luminous against her olive complexion, was a pearl on velvet, a testament to her quiet, invaluable presence amidst the family's opulent reality. Her unwavering steadfastness and purity of intention offered a poignant counterpoint to the gilded cage that had once shaped his own assumptions about those who served. The subtle glow from the Swarovski lantern seemed to soften the sharp edges of his long-held skepticism, illuminating a truth far more profound than any material wealth. The air, once heavy with his own shame and the weight of his physical limitations, now carried a delicate current of burgeoning trust, a fragile, unspoken understanding that transcended their disparate stations. She held him, not out of duty, but from a wellspring of inner resolve, a strength forged in experiences that paralleled his own, though born of an entirely different life. Her very essence, a beacon of integrity, was slowly chipping away at the walls he had built around his heart, walls constructed from a lifetime of power and the expectations that came with it. His question hung in the air, a silent plea for connection, for an explanation that went beyond obligation. He searched her eyes, finding not the detached professionalism he might have once expected, but a deep, unwavering empathy that mirrored his own desperate fight for dignity. The scent of jasmine, subtly intermingling with the faint traces of chlorine from the nearby pool, became a sensory backdrop to this intimate revelation, underscoring the raw human drama unfolding within the lavish setting. His pride, once a towering edifice, now felt permeable, softened by the sheer force of her selfless commitment. A shared breath, though imperfect, bound them in that suspended moment, a silent acknowledgement of the extraordinary resilience found in unexpected alliances. The desert rose, encased in its glass dome, seemed to shimmer in resonance, a fragile symbol of enduring strength in adversity, reflecting the quiet power of Layla's unwavering support. The pool area, a sanctuary from the Majlis's demands, warmed as the sun dipped, painting the sky apricot and rose. Rashid, unhurried, maneuvered Sheikh Khalid to the water's edge, a silent invitation to contemplation. The rippling surface caught the fading light, turning the pool into a liquid canvas. Khalid, eyes on the reflections, offered a weak but genuine smile, a gesture of gratitude needing no words. Layla, discreet behind them, felt a pang of unexpected hope, a tender shoot from hardened ground. The shared moment, steeped in unspoken understanding, wove a delicate thread into their lives. Water lapping the tiled edge became a soft, rhythmic lullaby, soothing remnants of discord. Rashid's hand on his father's shoulder conveyed a connection deeper than blood, forged in vulnerability and newfound respect. The air lightened, shedding unspoken resentments. Here, away from prying eyes and public image, another strength took root, nourished by genuine affection and quiet devotion. The golden skyline, once a symbol of power, framed a personal triumph, the heart prevailing over rigid tradition. Layla watched, guardian of this intimacy, knowing some battles are won not by grand gestures, but by simple, profound care. The desert rose glowed within its dome, mirroring the moment's quiet grace. A future once clouded now held the fragile, potent promise of healing and peace. Because no one cared when I needed holding. And because you deserve more than pity. You deserve someone to believe in you. Layla's voice, a soft current in the quiet expanse, carried a weight of profound experience, a wisdom born from unseen struggles. Sheikh Khalid's lips quivered at her words, his eyes widening slightly, a flicker of raw emotion surfacing. "You sound like my late wife," he murmured, the unexpected comparison striking a chord that vibrated through the hushed air. A sharp ache tightened Layla's chest, a bittersweet recognition of the deep connection forming between them. "Then maybe she sent me," she whispered, the thought both a comfort and a profound revelation. For a suspended moment, the lavish, private infinity pool area became utterly still, the only discernible sound the rhythmic pounding of two hearts, carrying each other's unspoken burdens in a shared, profound moment of connection. A silent pact forged in the golden twilight. The lingering scent of oud and chlorine seemed to deepen, wrapping around them like a comforting embrace, solidifying the invisible bonds that had formed. The shimmering water of the pool, reflecting the last rays of the sun, seemed to hold their stillness, a mirror to their intertwined destinies. Layla met Khalid's gaze, an understanding passing between them that transcended words. A quiet acceptance of the unexpected turns their lives had taken. The desert rose, still glowing softly in its glass dome, now appeared not just as a symbol of resilience, but of serendipitous fate. The silence of the opulent private infinity pool area had momentarily deepened, holding the breath of two hearts beating in unison, a fragile testament to shared burdens and profound connection. Then, without warning, the stillness shattered. Sheikh Khalid's frame convulsed, his knees giving way with startling abruptness, sending his body lurching forward. A sharp cry of "Sheikh Khalid" tore from Layla's throat as she was dragged with him, her grip momentarily compromised by the sudden shift in his immense weight. She fought desperately, a raw, animalistic strength surging through her, her nails digging into the pristine white bedspread as if to anchor them both against the inevitable descent. Her back arched, threatening to snap under the brutal strain. The delicate fabric of her haute couture abaya stretched taut across her struggling form. "Stay with me. Don't let go," she gasped. The words a desperate plea forced through gritted teeth, each syllable an effort. His arm, still clamped around her shoulders, tightened with the desperate strength of a drowning man, his voice a raw, broken whisper. "Don't drop me, child. Please." The entire scene was a visceral tableau of struggle, a brutal counterpoint to the lavish surroundings, where human vulnerability was laid bare against a backdrop of unthinking luxury. The scent of oud, once a perfume of peace, now seemed to mingle with the metallic tang of fear and the acrid sting of desperate exertion. The desert rose in its glass dome, on the nearby table, seemed to shiver, its fragile beauty a stark contrast to the fierce, almost violent struggle unfolding beside it. Every muscle in Layla's body screamed in protest, but her resolve, a silent pearl on velvet, remained unbroken. The weight of his lineage, his reputation, his very life, seemed to rest solely on her trembling shoulders. The cool air of the room, so recently a balm, now seemed to press in on her, amplifying the urgency of the moment. She felt the ragged rhythm of his breath against her cheek, a desperate symphony of effort and impending collapse. The shimmering reflections on the infinity pool's surface danced with an unsettling frenzy, mirroring the turmoil within her. The golden skyline, visible through the grand windows, seemed to recede, as if the world itself held its breath, witnessing this intimate, agonizing battle for dignity and survival. The insistent roar of the descending aircraft ripped through the fragile calm, freezing Layla and Sheikh Khalid in their struggle for his mobility. Her muscles screamed, bracing his weakened form. His full weight was a heavy, living burden against her straining body. Fine beads of sweat dotted her brow and dampened the silk of her abaya where it clung to her temples, a stark contrast to the opulence of their sanctuary. This physical proof of her dedication transcended glamour. Khalid's labored breath, ragged and hot, brushed her neck, a raw testament to his fight for independence. Her frame, usually lithe, felt like a taut bridge, every fiber stretched to its limit. They hung suspended in that precarious posture, a tableau of effort and vulnerability by the private infinity pool, the aircraft's metallic tang, an acrid intrusion mingling with the subtle oud. A tremor coursed through Khalid, born of weakness and corrosive shame, humiliation darkening his once commanding features. "This isn't how my son, the crown prince, should ever witness me," he rasped, barely audible above the helicopter's fading thrum. The words, laced with exposed vulnerability, pierced Layla. His eyes, clouded with effort and the weight of lifelong pride, pleaded with an unspoken torment she understood. She squeezed her eyes shut, every protesting fiber screaming, yet her resolve remained unyielding. "Then he won't, inshallah," she murmured, a low, fierce promise that vibrated with quiet strength. "We will see this through, just you and I," she vowed silently, her grip firm, a bulwark against his despair. The golden skyline through the grand windows, which had promised serene power, now framed the harsh reality of disruption. The helicopter's arrival shattered their tranquility. The desert rose in its glass dome on the table seemed to hold its breath, a fragile witness to their battle for dignity against public intrusion. The air pulsed with tension at Hamdan's arrival, threatening to unravel the delicate tapestry of their understanding and proving that dignity must be fiercely defended, even amid splendor. Layla focused on the steady beat of her own heart, a resilient drum against the echoing rotor, a reminder of her commitment to his recovery despite cost and scrutiny. Her aching arms felt like pillars, supporting not just his body but the essence of his noble spirit. The pool, once soothing, rippled with restless energy, its surface reflecting the sudden turmoil in their private world. Crown Prince Rashid's imminent arrival, now framed by dawning realization and an unspoken intervention, carried the cutting edge of unexpected judgment, a reminder of the blind spots of those accustomed to power. Layla's quiet strength, honed by adversity and unseen struggles, became a steady beacon, guiding Khalid through his shame. The luxurious velvet robe that had draped him moments before felt like an impossibly heavy shroud, yet beneath its folds, his will still flickered, rekindled by her belief in his recovery. She knew the weight she bore, physical and emotional, but protecting his spirit and dignity was a far greater reward than any treasure. The metallic tang lingered, a harsh reminder of the world beyond their intimacy, As the helicopter's sound finally faded, an unspoken understanding solidified between them, a shared resilience that defied external chaos and promised the continuation of their private battle. The air carried the faintest hint of ozone after a storm, suggesting a new clarity might emerge. The pool's surface stilled and the reflections sharpened, a mirror to Layla's quiet resolve, ready to face what came next, her spirit a bastion against the gathering storm. The quiet resolve settled on Rashid's features, replacing the sharp suspicion from moments before. An internal recalibration had occurred. Values eclipsed the glitter of his world. He straightened from his kneel. The rustle of his tailored thobe answered the pool's hum. His hands, which had gripped the instructions with anger, now rested gently on the gilded handles of his father's wheelchair. Not command, but support. He guided the chair with deliberate, almost tender motion. The grand room seemed to shrink, focusing on this fragile tableau of renewed connection. Layla watched, a silent witness, her exhaustion momentarily forgotten. The tension in her shoulders eased. The promise in Rashid's eyes was clear, a vow settling into her core. The air, no longer heavy with accusation, carried oud mingled with faint chlorine. The crystal chandelier no longer mocked her struggle. Its light offered a path forward where compassion might bloom. She let out a small, almost imperceptible sigh, a breath that loosened the last vestiges of fear. The world outside receded, leaving an intimate space where empathy triumphed over prejudice and honor felt restored. The fragile desert rose, encased in glass, pulsed with quiet strength, a reminder that resilience can flourish in unexpected places. The pool area, a sanctuary from the Majlis, warmed as the sun dipped, painting the sky apricot and rose. Rashid, unhurried, moved Sheikh Khalid to the water's edge, a silent invitation to contemplation. The rippling surface caught the fading light, a liquid canvas. Khalid, eyes on the reflections, offered a weak but genuine smile, gratitude needing no words. Layla, discreet behind them, felt an unexpected hope take root. The shared moment, steeped in unspoken understanding, wove a delicate thread into their lives. Water lapping the tiled edge became a soft lullaby, soothing discord's remnants. Rashid's hand on his father's shoulder conveyed a connection deeper than blood, forged in vulnerability and respect. Away from prying eyes and public image, another strength took root, nourished by affection and quiet devotion. The golden skyline framed a personal triumph, heart over rigid tradition. Layla watched, guardian of this intimacy, knowing some battles are won by simple, profound care. The desert rose glowed within its dome, mirroring the moment's quiet grace. A future once clouded now held the fragile promise of healing. Khalid's gaze, still clouded by his ordeal, drifted past the rose and fixed on a point beyond the grand windows, a distant glimmer on the horizon. A flicker of alarm made Rashid follow his line of sight. The serene landscape now held an ominous speck, growing rapidly, disrupting twilight. Layla moved closer, eyes narrowing as the disturbance became clear. A faint drone, barely audible at first, quickly intensified, a mechanical intrusion into their fragile peace, shattering the water's lull and the breeze. The air vibrated with a low thrum that spoke of power and purpose, a stark contrast to the intimacy they had cultivated. Rashid's hand tightened on his father's shoulder, protective as the unknown drew near. Golden light dimmed, casting longer shadows that danced with unsettling energy. The silence that had deepened into understanding now held taut expectation. The desert rose, symbol of endurance, felt suddenly vulnerable. The promise of healing hung precariously, threatened by this unforeseen arrival. A chill, unrelated to evening air, prickled Layla's skin, a premonition of disruption. The scent of oud now mingled with a faint metallic tang, an unwelcome herald. The pool, once a mirror of the sky, reflected growing unease. The skyline blurred with the approach, exposing the calm as fragile. They stood, three figures silhouetted against deepening hues, united by shared apprehension, awaiting the confrontation this presence foretold. The quiet triumph of heart over tradition faced its test on the cusp of an unknown challenge. Silence settled like desert stillness after a storm. Rashid rose, feeling cool marble under his thobe, a reminder of earlier arrogance. He reached for the wheelchair's gilded handles with a gentle, tentative touch. No forceful grip, but a nascent understanding. The harsh lines of suspicion softened into concern as he guided the chair, a silent, powerful gesture of respect. Layla, still trembling, watched his transformation, now acknowledged not as a servant, but as Khalid's steadfast guardian. The air, freed from accusation, breathed out and faint chlorine, an odd perfume of peace in the lavish space. The chandelier cast shimmering light forward, illuminating a path where compassion might take root. She allowed a small sigh, a breath that eased the last fear, a quiet acknowledgement of triumph. The world's demands receded again, leaving this intimate place where empathy had conquered prejudice and true honor felt restored. The desert rose on the nearby table pulsed with quiet resolve, a reminder that resilience endures, even in the most challenging environments. The majlis hummed with a different energy. Conversation carried an anticipation that no longer served as backdrop to Zara's private anguish. Light softened into a warm glow, jasmine mingling with Aunt Layla's perfume. Her hands, released from tension, rested lightly in her lap. Her heart found a gentler cadence, still weighted by unspoken anxieties, but edged with fragile resilience. The decision before her would define her, bind her to a preordained fate or, with unimaginable courage, send her alone toward an uncertain freedom. A crystal on the chandelier caught a single tear as it traced her cheek, a tiny, glistening rebellion in a room of gilded complacency. For Zara, the world narrowed to this intimate moment and the dawning realization that whatever she chose, she would walk it alone. The truth settled like desert dust. Two distinct futures stretched ahead. One promised the smooth, mapped road of obligation, where her essence would be muted. The other, a mist-shrouded wildness, offered self-determination at the cost of severing silken ties to tradition and loved ones. A tremor ran from fingertips to heart as a chasm opened beneath her. Conversations receded like distant waves, as she longed for a horizon where duty's echoes would not drown her nascent song. Her abaya's intricate embroidery, once prideful, felt like the bars of a gilded cage. Each breath carried unasked questions and the certainty of an imminent, life-altering dawn. Oud and Rose, usually comforting, hinted at an unwritten future poised on a precipice. The majlis's grandeur, family pride and legacy, pressed in. Laughter became a faint, mocking sound against her internal roar. She was a fleeting shadow among lights, a whisper lost in confident exclamations, a fragile shell on a shore of expectations. The invisible thread of yearning tightened into an intractable knot of indecision. Air heavy with jasmine and lineage made each breath labor. Crystal and gold reminded her of the life she was expected to embrace, one increasingly at odds with the stirrings of her soul. To speak her true desires would shatter the carefully kept peace and invite an uncontrollable storm into a haven of appearances. Her choice would ripple through generations. Her hands remained eerily still, a testimony to the internal stillness she sought. The moment stretched, pregnant with consequence. Murmured voices drew closer. The majlis had become a crucible for her besieged spirit. Cardamom and strong coffee, usually grounding, now anchored her to an overwhelming reality. Her focus rose from the rug's patterns to faces, silent reflections of an unyielding social tapestry. Their joy only underscored the chasm between her inner turmoil and their serenity. In their smiles, she saw unspoken assumptions and the certainty of well-trodden paths offered as destiny. Room warmth felt alien beside the cold calculus of her predicament. Tension tightened at her temples. The shimmering thread of her abaya pricked at her skin, a reminder of the facade to maintain. Her fingers traced invisible lines on her skirt, seeking a hidden pattern or elusive escape. The chandelier's crystals seemed to mock her burning question. How reconcile the fierce spirit inside with the crushing weight of legacy? Expectation was no longer a cloak but an impending avalanche, each heartbeat a countdown to a point of no return. Silence, broken only by clinking teacups, made the world hold its breath. The weight of untold centuries pressed on her, a force that might either forge her anew or crush her completely. Inch by painstaking inch, Layla eased Sheikh Khalid downward. His groans were barely audible, his voice thin but imbued with a deep resolve as he implored her, "Hold me steady, child. Do not let me fall." Her soft shoes, designed for quiet movement, offered scant traction against the polished expanse of the marble floor as she meticulously guided his descent. The Sheikh's immense weight pressed into her shoulders, a crushing burden. Yet she persevered until he finally settled into the opulent gilded wheelchair. His chest heaved, breath escaping in ragged bursts, and a sheen of sweat glistened on his temple. Layla stumbled backward, finding herself supported by the cool, solid frame of the nearby bed, her lungs burning for air. Her haute couture abaya, once flowing and elegant, now clung damply to her skin, outlining the weary tremor in her arms, a testament to the monumental effort she had just expended. It was at this precise moment that Crown Prince Rashid's sharp, unyielding gaze, filled with an inexplicable intensity, fell upon her. He stood there, observing her disheveled state, his eyes betraying no hint of compassion for the physical toll she had clearly suffered. The soft light of the room seemed to sharpen, highlighting the weary lines around her eyes and the frantic pulse at her throat. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, as Rashid's presence loomed, a stark figure against the golden light filtering through the grand windows. Her earlier resolve, born of the Sheikh's desperate plea, now felt fragile under the weight of his scrutiny. Every instinct screamed for her to explain, to justify the scene, yet no words could escape her parched throat. The air crackled with unspoken judgment, an oppressive shroud descending upon the intimacy of their private struggle, transforming the sanctuary into a tribunal. The fragile peace cultivated within the opulent sanctuary shattered with the abrupt appearance of Crown Prince Rashid in the grand doorway, his imposing silhouette stark against the palace twilight. His meticulously tailored thobe seemed to ripple with intimidating authority as he stood, rigid, his gaze a honed blade, slicing towards Layla. The quiet understanding between them evaporated under his unyielding scrutiny, replaced by an icy tension. His voice, breaking the heavy silence, was low, each word deliberately spaced, carrying an ominous weight that made Layla's breath catch painfully. "What did I just see?" he slowly asked, the question hanging in the perfumed air, thick with unspoken judgment. Layla's heart hammered, a frantic drumbeat of dread. Her throat tightened, constricting any reply, her words tangled and caught. The silent accusation in his piercing eyes was devastating, a stark reminder of how easily appearances betrayed truth. She knew with chilling certainty how the scene must have unfolded in his mind, painted with assumptions and ingrained prejudice. The room's warmth drained away, leaving a cold vacuum, amplifying her vulnerability. Before she could force a sound, before she could articulate her innocent reality, Sheikh Khalid, despite his recent frailty, stirred with surprising will. A flicker of his old strength ignited in his eyes, a defiant spark against his son's suspicion. He lifted his head with slow, deliberate effort, his voice weak and raspy, yet imbued with unmistakable firmness. "Don't look at her like that, Rashid," he commanded, his words a clear shield against the scathing accusations. "She was helping me, helping you." The declaration, a poignant testament to Layla's true intent, hung in the air, a fragile defense against formidable doubt. Rashid's impeccably groomed brows furrowed, his eyes narrowing further, not in understanding, but in deeper, challenging suspicion that directly belied his father's earnest words. He held his father's gaze, unyielding, a silent challenge in the set of his jaw. "By putting herself in that position?" he retorted, his voice edged with dangerous, biting skepticism. "By taking on a risk she shouldn't even be near." Each question was a subtle, powerful accusation, designed to undermine rebuilt trust, to dismantle the fragile peace. The opulent space, moments before a sanctuary, now felt like a stark courtroom, each ornate detail a glittering witness to the drama. The delicate desert rose a poignant symbol of threatened innocence. The golden skyline, once promising a new dawn, darkened ominously, foreshadowing a protracted battle of wills. The very air vibrated with unspoken conflict, the scent of oud and chlorine replaced by the sharper metallic tang of impending confrontation. A silent war waged in hushed tones, yet with profound implications for their relationships. The heavy weight of his questions pressed down, a suffocating shroud over Layla's burdened spirit, leaving her speechless, trapped between defending herself and the impossibility of doing so without betraying her compassionate actions. The silence that followed was deafening, laden with unaddressed tension and the stark reality of Rashid's unwavering disbelief, a damning judgment promising to unravel everything. The deafening roar of the helicopter receded, leaving a heavy silence that amplified the tension between them. Rashid's fingers remained locked on the gilded wheelchair, his vow of protection thrumming beneath his skin. As the downdraft settled and dust motes danced in the fading light, his attention, though still alert to the outside intrusion, turned inward. He noticed the subtle tremor in Layla's frame, a fragility beneath her steadiness, and a flicker in her eyes, a quiet desperation trying to surface. The shift in her demeanor, against the menacing helicopter and the figure emerging from it, made him turn fully toward her. Her usual composure was gone, her gaze meeting his with an unexpected intensity. Something held behind her lips gathered like a confession. He saw her swallow, then exhale. The words came, a whisper that gained fragile strength. "There was no one else, Your Highness." Her voice trembled, then steadied with quiet conviction. "The therapist was supposed to come this morning, but the session was cancelled again." Rashid's brow furrowed, concern sharpening into a swift, guttural question. "Cancelled? Why?" Layla's gaze dropped, then lifted, unwavering. The metallic tang of helicopter exhaust seemed to underscore her revelation. "The house administrator said it was too expensive to keep up twice a week," she said, voice firm though faintly trembling. "He told me to just follow the printed steps the therapist left." Her hand gestured to a folded paper on the nightstand beside Sheikh Khalid's chair. Simple on the surface, it suddenly bore the weight of untold struggle, a cold, clinical set of instructions contrasted with her human care. "I tried, sir. I did exactly what was written, but when Sheikh Khalid's leg gave out, I had no choice but to brace him." She looked at the paper, then at Rashid. The bold type was visible even from a distance. "Transfer protocol. Count to 3. Pivot chair angled at 45 degrees. The words hung as a chilling testament to isolation and impossible demands. Rashid felt a jolt of anger, a fury eclipsing the threat of the arriving figure. His grip tightened on the wheelchair, not only in protection but from rage at the injustice. The golden skyline, once a symbol of boundless wealth, shimmered with cruel irony. Their ornate surroundings and the opulent pool became witnesses to a profound failing, a luxury that had overlooked essential care. A cold realization settled. This was not mere accident, but the consequence of callous disregard. The fragile desert rose in the dusk light seemed more resilient, a symbol of Layla's unwavering spirit amid adversity. The air, thick with oud and chlorine, now carried the bitter tang of truth, shattering any illusion of perfect order. Rashid looked at Layla. A silent acknowledgement passed between them, a shared understanding forged in this painful revelation. His mind raced, gauging the immediate danger of the approaching figure and the systemic rot that had allowed this. The whispered words had unleashed a storm he knew would demand reckoning. This negligence would not go unaddressed. As the imposing figure's shadow stretched across the pool, a potent memory anchored Rashid against the tide of confrontation. He remembered the cold knot of fury in his gut, the 2 loud footsteps in that earlier scene, his hands snatching the incriminating papers, jaw clenched against proof that insisted on betrayal. He had been blinded by pride and a warped sense of duty, unable to see beyond the apparent transgression. The sharp scent of antiseptic had mingled with his rising indignation, a suffocating cocktail of fear and accusation. Yet, in that fraught instant, another image had etched itself into him and now served as bedrock. Sheikh Khalid, frail but resolute, had lifted a trembling hand and placed it, with deliberate weight, over Layla's. His weak voice nevertheless carried the ring of truth, cutting through Rashid's anger. "She didn't abandon me, son," his father had said, each word measured against the sudden silence. "She kept me from hitting the floor. Without her, you'd have walked in to find me broken." The confession, raw and vulnerable, unraveled Rashid's assumptions and tore down the brittle walls of prejudice. It shifted his whole perspective, revealing a depth of selfless loyalty he had dismissed. Layla stood then as a quiet testament to that devotion, eyes shimmering with unshed tears, yet steady. The delicate silver chain at her neck glinted in the subdued light, a small counterpoint to the inner strength radiating from her unassuming presence. When she spoke, it was a hushed but firm honesty, born of integrity that sought no reward. "I didn't do it for thanks," she said through a tight throat, each word earnest and undeniable. "I did it because he asked me not to let him give up." The simple declaration held the purest sacrifice, loyalty that transcended obligation and became profound personal commitment. That memory burned bright in Rashid now, a guiding beacon against the chilling presence of the helicopter and the advancing figure. He understood then that honor was not inherited privilege, but earned through compassion and selfless dedication. His father's harsh truth and Layla's quiet dignity had shattered arrogance and replaced it with conviction. The real adversaries, he realized, were not those who defied tradition, but those who wielded power without empathy. Forged in shame and redemption, this truth armed him with a new authority, rooted in respect and understanding of human fragility and strength. The metallic tang of lingering jet fuel, a reminder of the present threat, felt less like danger and more like a test to uphold the honor he now defended. He stood with a cold, unwavering certainty in his redefined purpose. The approaching figure advanced, unaware of the internal shift that cemented Rashid's unbreakable defense. The air, thick with unspoken declarations and impending consequence, waited for the inevitable collision of entrenched power and unassailable truth. The inner sanctum of the Sheikh's private quarters, usually a tapestry of conversation and counsel, was steeped in reverential silence, punctuated only by the soft hum of a hidden air purifier. The air carried the ghost of incense and the weight of unspoken burdens clinging to tapestries and gilded cornices. Crown Prince Rashid, used to a world that bent to his will, paused at the threshold, a world away from the familiar. His swift, decisive perception faltered, clouded by assumptions and a resistance to vulnerability. His father, Sheikh Khalid, a man whose presence once commanded rooms, now occupied a magnificent golden wheelchair, its hand-carved details a defiant assertion of sovereignty. The opulence contrasted with the man within. Sheikh Khalid was a fragile echo of his former self, his frame diminished. A sheen of perspiration clung to his brow, testament to a recent struggle that belied his determined posture. It was an image of resilience threaded with profound weariness. Beside him, Layla embodied quiet, unyielding service. Her posture, usually composed, bore a subtle sway, hinting at exhaustion beyond the physical. The soft folds of her abaya, once pristine, were creased and clung in places, betraying hours of vigil. Her hands, clasped before her, trembled just enough to catch the light, a silent testament to burdens she had borne alone. Every line etched in her face, every flicker of fatigue in her eyes, showed a spiritual effort, an unwavering dedication that permeated her being. Rashid's gaze swept this tableau of diminished power and devotion and hardened into an ungenerous conclusion. He allowed a misguided thought, born of superficial expectation, to escape. He had imagined something different. The words hung as a subtle accusation of negligence, a dismissive wave at a reality he found inconvenient. He had expected a managed decline, not this raw evidence of struggle. Sheikh Khalid's eyes, dimmed by illness, sharpened with terrible intensity. They pierced his son's prejudiced gaze, stripping away layers of preconception. Profound disappointment settled on the Sheikh's features, hardening the lines around his mouth into a grim set. He declared Rashid had thought incorrectly. For such miscalculation and clouded judgment, he must bear the weight of his own dishonor, a burden beyond any physical affliction. The vast room absorbed the force of the Sheikh's admonishment. The grandeur that usually comforted now amplified Rashid's shame, pressing down like a physical weight. He felt the sting of his father's words, a precise rebuke that severed his unearned arrogance and forced a confrontation with his biases. His head lowered, shoulders slumping under the unseen burden of righteous anger. He sank to one knee, the leather of his shoes whispering against cool marble. The small sound felt deafening in the charged air as he approached the wheelchair, a gesture of submission and remorse. He murmured to his father and Layla, chastened and raw, that he was truly sorry, that his superficial gaze had deceived him, that preconceived notions had blinded him to this sacred, difficult truth. Sheikh Khalid, with a slight shake of his head, redirected his son's remorse, his gaze fixed not on Rashid, but on Layla, acknowledging her fortitude. He said Rashid's apology did not belong to him. Layla alone had borne the full measure of his infirmity, upholding the foundations of his life with unwavering dedication. His quiet words carried the weight of undeniable truth, leaving no room for deflection, a solemn command for Rashid to comprehend the depth of her sacrifice. The weight of that truth settled on Rashid, stripping away artifice. He turned to Layla and truly saw her for the first time, free of arrogant assumptions. Not a mere servant, but a pillar of the household, an embodiment of selfless duty and quiet strength. The moment stretched, heavy with acknowledgement. An unspoken respect began to bloom within him, a seed in his humbled spirit promising a transformation yet to unfold. The imposing figure, Sheikh Hamdan, paused at the edge of the pool, his silhouette stark against the last vestiges of the sunset. His gaze, sharp and unblinking, swept over Rashid, then Layla, lingering on Sheikh Khalid in his wheelchair. An appraisal that felt less like acknowledgement and more like a challenge. The impeccably white thobe, which had initially symbolized unyielding power, now seemed to ripple with a subtle undercurrent of something less controlled, a faint tension beneath the composed exterior. The silence stretched, heavy and profound, broken only by the gentle lapping of the pool water against its tiled edge, a sound almost unheard beneath the weight of unspoken history and imminent confrontation. Rashid met Hamdan's stare unflinchingly, a new strength hardening his features, a protective barrier around his father and Layla. He felt the tremor of defiance emanating from Khalid, a fragile but potent energy that fueled his own resolve. Layla, though outwardly calm, held her breath, every instinct screaming vigilance, every muscle poised for defense. The metallic tang from the helicopter's descent still hung in the air, a stark counterpoint to the subtle oud and chlorine that had, moments before, signified peace. Hamdan's arrival was not a visit, but an invasion, his presence a clear declaration of intent. The carefully cultivated tranquility of the private infinity pool area fractured under his scrutiny, revealing the raw emotional landscape beneath. The desert rose, delicate and vulnerable under the fading light, seemed to shrink further, its fragile beauty a stark contrast to the formidable power now arrayed against them. The golden skyline, once a promise of new beginnings, now seemed to frame a brewing storm, its beauty overshadowed by the palpable tension. Rashid knew this was more than a confrontation. It was a reckoning, a battle for his father's dignity and Layla's rightful place. He tightened his grip on the wheelchair, a silent vow to protect, to stand unyielding against the tide of Hamdan's relentless will. The pool's surface, reflecting the fractured light, mirrored their own splintered peace, the ripples on its surface echoing the turmoil in their hearts. The air crackled with unspoken challenges, each breath a silent anticipation of the inevitable clash.